Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In soaps, it ain't over till it's over, and sometimes not even then either. Case in point, although General Hospital split up Willow and Chase years ago, and in heartbreaking fashion, the old flames' warm feelings for one another have recently returned to the fore. With her life in shambles and his marriage to Brooklyn experiencing some unexpected turbulence, could Willow and Chase find themselves being drawn to one another as more than friends? Here's what Katelyn MacMullen has to say on the subject. Could Willow and Chase fall back in love? When it comes to the former couple's potential as a future couple, the actress tells Soaps.com, "I think probably maybe it could happen. I'd like to think that she'd be like, no, Chase and I just will always have this love for each other. We'll always have each other's backs, no matter what." But of course, in daytime, that kind of closeness can, and often does, lead to more. MacMullen has even discussed what's going on with Josh Swickard from a perspective of our characters held this really special place in each other's lives. Their circumstances have changed, a lot, with Willow blowing up her marriage to Michael to go all in with sleazy Drew, and Chase tying the knot with Brooklyn, only to learn that Gio is her surprise son. But even though Willow and Chase been through some crazy ups and downs, especially with the breakups and all that, MacMullen says, I think in the soap world it could definitely turn into an emotional quagmire. Get a sneak peek of Friday's twists and turns in the preview photo gallery below. The Quartermaine Gardens were hushed under a veil of early evening light. Willow sat at the stone bench where roses curled upward, their crimson blooms a contrast to the storm in her chest. She pressed her palms against her knees, willing herself to breathe. "I don't recognize myself anymore," she whispered, her voice catching on the edge of tears. The words belonged to no one but her, until footsteps crunched across the gravel. "Willow?" She turned, startled, as Harrison Chase approached. His tie was loosened, his hair a little windswept from the day. He looked the same, and yet older somehow, like grief had left its etchings on him too. "I didn't mean to intrude," Chase said, carefully. "Monica mentioned you'd been out here." Willow forced a smile, thin and brittle. "You're not intruding, just remembering." Or trying to forget? His tone was gentle, but his eyes probed deeper. She exhaled. Both, maybe. For weeks, whispers in town had circled. Willow's public collapse at the courthouse, the broken wedding to Drew, the accusations against her mother. Port Charles was merciless when it came to gossip. She'd sworn to herself that she'd remain strong, for her children and for her dignity. But strength was elusive when your heart was a puzzle with missing pieces. Chase lowered himself onto the bench beside her. "I know that look," he said softly, "the one that says you're keeping it together for everyone else, even when you're unraveling inside." Her throat tightened. "I don't even know who I am anymore, Chase. I tried to be the perfect wife, the perfect mother, and I ended up with nothing but broken promises." Silence settled between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Instead, it carried the weight of shared history, the kind that didn't need words to be understood. Chase finally spoke, his voice steadier than hers. "You're not nothing, Willow. You're stronger than you realize. I've seen you fight through things most people wouldn't survive." She shook her head. Strong people don't end up screaming in courtrooms or hiding in gardens so they don't shatter in front of their kids. "Strong people fall," Chase countered, "but the real strength is in getting back up, and you will." She turned to him then, truly looked at him, the man who once held her heart, who married her in a hospital chapel when all they had was faith and fear. A bittersweet pang shot through her. "Do you ever think about it?" Willow asked, her voice barely audible. "About us?" Chase hesitated, his jaw tightening. "Every day." The confession landed like a spark in dry grass, dangerous, irresistible. Willow closed her eyes, suddenly overwhelmed. She thought of Drew's betrayal, Michael's coldness, her mother's lies. And then she thought of Chase, the one person who had never truly let her down, even when she had broken his heart. When she opened her eyes again, she whispered, "I don't know where to go from here." Chase's hand brushed against hers, tentative but warm. "Then let me walk with you, wherever here leads." The roses swayed in the evening breeze, as if nature itself approved. For the first time in months, Willow felt a flicker of hope, fragile but alive. Chapter 2: Ghosts of the Chapel. Rain pattered against the chapel windows, blurring the world outside. Willow stood in the aisle of General Hospital's chapel, lost in memory. She could almost see it, The day she and Chase had exchanged vows. The white dress, the trembling hands, the whispered promises born of desperation. "It feels like a lifetime ago," she murmured. Chase, standing near the altar, glanced at her with a half-smile. It was, but some memories don't fade. Willow's chest ached as she replayed it, the way they had clung to each other when life threatened to steal everything. They hadn't married for the fairy tale, they had married to fight for a child, for love, for hope. And for a while, it had worked. "Do you regret it?" she asked suddenly. Chase stepped closer, the chapel quiet, amplifying every movement. "No, not 1 second. What about you?" Willow swallowed hard. "Sometimes I regret how it ended, how I hurt you." He didn't flinch. "You followed your heart, even if it broke mine." The truth hung heavy. She had chosen Michael then, believing he was her true future. But Michael had grown distant, and Drew had offered her a different kind of stability. Until betrayal shattered that too. "Maybe my heart doesn't know what it wants," Willow admitted. Chase's eyes softened. "Maybe it knows exactly what it wants. You just stopped listening." Her breath caught. She wanted to deny it, to push away the flood of feelings she'd buried. But as she looked at him, she realized the ghost of their love still lingered. The chapel door creaked open, and Brooklyn appeared, her eyes narrowing at the sight of them. "Funny," she said coldly, "of all the places to revisit, you chose this one." Willow stiffened, guilt pricking her. Chase began, but she cut him off. "Don't. I know what this looks like." Her gaze flicked between them, sharp and accusing. "And maybe it's exactly what it is." She stormed out before either could respond, leaving a silence more deafening than the rain. Willow's voice trembled. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." Chase sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's not your fault. Brooklyn and we've been on shaky ground for a while." Still, guilt gnawed at Willow. Was she doomed to always ruin the good in others' lives? Chase reached for her hand again, steady and sure. "Don't blame yourself, Willow. Whatever's happening between us, it's real, and maybe it's worth exploring." Her pulse quickened. Could she risk it? Could she trust her heart again, after everything? The rain outside softened, as though offering its blessing.